Breaking news, the Arizona Cardinals have opted not to play starters in week 3 of the preseason against the Las Vegas Raiders. Johnny, Venerable, Bo, Brack, PHNX Cardinals, and Bo, you're just with head coach Jonathan Gannon, who made the announcement in Tempe.
Yeah, he said it's going to look similar to last week, and what we saw last week was 2 series from Jacoby Brissett, and the rest belonged to third-string quarterback Clayton Tune and some second, third, fourth-string guys vying for roster spots. You know, it's not going to be pleasing to the Cardinals faithful in attendance at State Farm Stadium, but what Gannon said is guys who are playing on Saturday are guys that are fighting for roster spots. So that might even exclude a guy like Jacoby Brissett, Johnny, where I think, we know what his spot is, what his role is on this team. I think the team just has to decide, if they haven't already, is it worth maybe getting a look at Jacoby, maybe giving him some playing time before going to the sidelines as Kyler Murray's backup going forward?
Yeah, let's put aside the fact that we will have to watch a game on Saturday between Jacoby Brissett not playing, Clayton Tune now going up against, 3s and 4s for the Las Vegas Raiders. Let's put that off to the side for a second. Yeah. We'll talk about that.
Please. Oh, is this keep it on the side?
That's right. Indefinitely. Is this a mistake by Jonathan Gannon and Drew Petzing specifically? Let's talk about this offense. This offense that finished last year, I pulled up some numbers before the show. I mean, they averaged 18 points per game against teams with winning records last year. They finished 2-5 to end the year. The offense was a big culprit for that. They've been inconsistent this camp, and they will go into the regular season with a joint practice against Denver and a week 1 preseason possession or 2 where Kyler Murray turned the ball over. There's going to be about a month to 3.5 week break in between this team playing another viable competitor. I get it. They open up against New Orleans, but I think the question now becomes, did you see enough? And clearly they feel like they have. I don't know if the fan base can feel that way, Bo. I don't know if we can sit here and decipher, yeah, they're clicking on all cylinders and we feel great about this. I think that there is a lot of skepticism with this fan base, not defensively, regardless of how they fared in Denver, but offensively. Does this team have the benefit of the doubt moving into the regular season?
You're going to have to give them the benefit of the doubt, right? I mean, this is an organization that kind of looked at their preseason, their training camp schedule, and they identified where they value putting in the work with their first team guys, and they did it. I think they feel, good about it. And let's not forget about the couple weeks there in training camp where Marvin Harrison Jr. was putting on a show day in and day out before missing time with knee soreness. So I think what you saw, what you wanted to see, as we were kind of far away from it, we had a joint practice in between a horrid preseason performance against the Broncos that, people want to wash the taste out of their mouth before the regular season. But I think what the organization, what Gannon, Petzing, Kyler, Marv himself, they all feel like they got productive reps this preseason, and you're just going to have to accept that, because you're not going to get anything between now and September 7th against the Saints that's going to make you feel any better about it. I think that there was productive work done by this offense. It was never going to reach the expectations of, hey, they were just going to open it up completely. They're never going to be that. And you're just going to have to, reserve judgment until, the lights are the brightest in the regular season.
Yeah, I have been, since this announcement was made, trying to deep dive the offense from last year, because I feel like, I don't know if I'm setting myself up for disappointment, but I look at the game, Bo. I pulled up the game last year against the Vikings, second half of the season, a team that I think should be comparable to the Cardinals. And the Cardinals moved the ball well that game. Kyler Murray moved the ball well, but they had 1 touchdown and about 6 to 7 red zone opportunities. I think that Chad Ryland had 5+ field goal attempts. Yeah, he was 5 for 6 in that game.
Yeah.
And I know Vikings defense was legit, and Brian Flores did a commendable job, but I have PTSD that they ran for 154 yards that day.
Yeah.
And I think about the games against Seattle and the game against LA late in the year. This team, I don't know if we have enough evolution offensively for this team to take the next level, because I'm going to tell you right now, Marv was good in that game against the Vikings. There was some inconsistency with he and Kyler Murray, but he had over 60 yards. He had a touchdown. Zay Jones played in that game. Michael Wilson had a couple nice catches. I know I'm breaking it down from a standpoint of, well, I'm discrediting the entire offseason and the work they put in, and I don't mean to do that. But I look at this unit, and it's the same players as last year, and we're taking 3.5 weeks off. And when we saw them in Denver, they were inconsistent. And when we saw them against Kansas City, they were inconsistent. I don't think they're going to struggle to move the ball. I'm worried about their inability to basically become an efficient red zone team. How is that going to change from last year to this year?
Well, I mean, I think you need to take a step back and think about the performance against Kansas City. Like the pick obviously is going to overshadow a lot of the good that they did. You know, otherwise Kyler Murray's 7 for 8. Like he rolls out of the pocket. Like he was untouched as far as that performance goes. You put in the context as far as the joint practice, you're going up what's supposed to be one of the top defenses, if not the top defense in the league. And you still probably had the best performance that any offense has had this summer against the Broncos. So, you know, and what are you truly going to get by Kyler Murray going out there? Say Kyler Murray goes out there and produces a drive that's similar to what Jacoby Brissett did in Denver in the preseason week 2 and marches them down the field and cashes in. But like, the coaching staff is looking at that and saying, but how does that really help? It might put our fan base at ease, but is that really going to point the arrow truly in the direction up that we needed to? Or do we feel like confident in the work that we've put in before? Like, is it really going to be game changing? Do you need the optics for your fan base to feel comfortable going to sleep at night before opening up their eyes on September 7th and facing the Saints and going on forward from there? I just think that the coaching staff realizes, like, is it really worth it? And they've come to the conclusion, no.
Yeah, and they're going to have to take their lumps now. And I don't even think we've talked about this, like beating New Orleans and Carolina, like isn't going to get people, overly excited. And so you're right. They're in a no-win situation. So they might as well, of course, do what they feel like is best for the team. I would have loved, and we've talked about this on our daily live show. Like I would have loved to come out of this preseason, this training camp, and been like, this offense looks night and day different than last year. I can't sit here and say that. I don't know if you can sit here and say that. I'll let you, give your own opinion on that. But I feel like there have been marginal improvements, but the root cause of what plagued this team last year remains to be seen if it's been corrected. And we really won't know until they start playing good teams this year. Again, 2-8 versus teams with winning record last year, 18 points per game. How many of those were field goals, right? Like we have to do a deep dive how many touchdowns they've scored against teams with winning records. It wasn't very many. So that they're going to have to play the bulk part of their schedule, which ironically comes late in the year where the Kyler Murray and company have struggled to really kind of decipher. And this is a marathon, not a sprint, but let's get back to Saturday night.
There's no going, like the first team offense they're going to play all the way during that stretch, and they're going to get ample opportunity to figure it out. Now, it can't look like last year where it's just like, hey, there's still the group, the core group is there. You're still not seeing the consistency there, but I think you did see, and I know you said marginally, and that's fair, right? When you've got a team that was just 23 points per game, as far as where they finished last year, I think it was 13th. I think as far as total offense, they were 11th.
Just inside the top 20 for passing yards.
What you wanted to see, was a step up in passing yards, explosives down the field, and those are opportunities that you only take a few of per game, and you have to hit on a couple of them this season. Like, everybody knows that. But one thing that I think you can check off is Marvin Harrison Jr. looking more comfortable, Marvin Harrison Jr. being more involved in the offense, more in rhythm. And I think you can say, like, I did see, spurts of that. Now I want to see it on NFL Sundays in the 2025 regular season. So, like, I'm not saying like, hey, it did take a definitive step. I don't think anybody could say that, but you did see some things that you wanted to. And I don't know if you really kind of thought hard about it. Like, were you going to get a chance at it in training camp in preseason, knowing how this team, like, they had two different play callers, different from their coordinators, calling plays on Saturday? How do you get a sense of that?
Listen, the Denver game, throw it in the trash. I mean, just light it on fire. I think, like, perfect world, they score a touchdown on one of their two drives against Kansas City. Is that fair against Steve Spagnuolo? I think, for you and I in attendance with, some media in Denver, Kyler Murray goes down the field and they have a really nice drive that ends in a touchdown in the red zone, right? They had a couple broken plays to Trey, but it's like, hey, 10 to 12 play drive, 8 to 10 play drive, go down and score a touchdown in the red. They didn't do that. But again, those are two of the better defenses in the NFL. So we're just going to have to wait and see, as opposed to Saturday. We don't have to wait very long to watch what could be a horror show at State Farm Stadium. Clayton Tune getting the start. We assume, but maybe not. Jacoby Brissett, if he gets anything, maybe a series, a possession. But at that point, if you're not going to play Jacoby Brissett for a half or over a quarter, don't play him at all. That's where I'm at, because like it was too much Clayton Tune last week. And now if it's the same, which we assume, or more, just play him the whole game. So people can, I already got people on Twitter, and it's unfortunate saying I'm going to sell my tickets this week. I'm not going to go. You talked about it on air yesterday. It's just like, are people going to bail on this game? I think that's a distinct possibility, which is this is the dress rehearsal. Fair or not, I know guys are playing for jobs. This is a tough look. And Drew Petzine's going to call the game, I would imagine, this weekend. That will help. But maybe. What's your take on this?
In a year from now, this game's not going to exist, very likely, when the NFL pivots to 18 weeks. You get 2 preseason games, and I think everybody's going to sign up. People are going to talk about how Clayton Tune getting reps, it's going to kind of hinder the ability for wide receivers to develop. But I think this wide receiver room is set. Like Fiocco, Xavier Weaver, with the 4 guys that we already know about. George Zay Jones, Michael Wilson, and Marvin Harrison Jr. So there's nobody that's really vying for a spot in this game. So it's like unfortunate. I feel bad for the guys. The 3rd, 4th, 5th string tight ends and wide receivers out there. I think as far as the trenches go, there's some spots, especially on the offensive line, that Clayton Tune, for the most part, doesn't have any kind of influence over. So it's like Josh Fryer and Royce Newman and Byers and those guys, like trying to get the last remaining offensive line spots going into, the initial 53. So I think it's unfortunate, but in the grand scheme of things, it's just going to be a tough watch for 3 hours. And then you move on. It's like, okay, the real show is going to be 2 weeks away from beginning. That's what you really want kind of to focus on, and them actually putting together a good performance. And then, you look at it on the other side, like defensively, there's some spots up for grab. I think on the defensive line, I think PJ Mustipher, Elijah Simmons, I think Simmons has the edge there. DB, Keitrell Clark, Darren Hall, Elijah Jones. Can they show up, and Keaton Crawford on special teams in the safety room? I think that those are the guys that you have to kind of, that as much as it sucks, you want to go see good football. Those are the guys that are going to be on display come Saturday night.
Yeah, listen, I'm excited to watch like the position unit battles on defense. I think the offense you're in a really difficult spot after that performance by Tune last week. And again, like you got the Chargers.
Let it rip, man. Do yourself a favor and just go let it rip.
You have to hear the criticism. I'm sure he's on social media. God help him if he is. And it's just like to see the criticism. And so this is a pro's game. This is a man's game. And it's like, Trey Lance was just Trey Lance is going to back up Justin Herbert. Trey Lance is going to play the whole game, it sounds like, for the Chargers this week. And it's just like, I get it. Jacoby's 30 and he's a little older and he's had some injuries in the past, and the Cardinals don't want to mess with it. But I don't love it. This is the 3rd straight year, Bo, where I just don't love how the preseason has been handled by this regime. And again, if they win this year, it doesn't matter. It was my argument for last year. It was like, if they started fast, like nobody would have cared. And I know they played loaded teams, and if they finished well, nobody would have cared. But when you have a season end the way it did last year, and you go into camp, you lose the benefit of the doubt with the fan base, and everything that you do, fair or not, is under a microscope. And Gannon gets that. They understand that. And the only way that you increase your credibility is with dubs from September to January. And that is, unfortunately, Bo, 2 weeks away. And so in the meantime, like this is kind of the end of this setup where it's like they either got to win or there are going to be changes, specifically offensively this year. And, if they bring in a rookie quarterback next year, you assume that individual is going to play a lot. So this is really the end of whatever this is.
Yeah.
And I'm happy for that. But we got one more game to endure.
Yeah. Yeah. Look, I don't think anybody's going to miss it. Like there were, like we were talking about the offense, but there were also miniature changes to how they approach preseason. Like we didn't see Kyler Murray at all. We get two series from him this preseason.
Right.
So, but look, I mean, to your point, I'm 100% with you. Like I have to go endure this game on Saturday. Like champagne problems, like that's the worst part of my job. I got to go watch Clayton Tune play for potentially 4 quarters.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, like if you get to the regular season and your starters, your team looks ill prepared, it's going to be an indictment on how you operate it during this time, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's going to be like if you're going to be against the grain, and I know like each team by team they have their own philosophy and who plays and who doesn't. Andy Reid, he plays a starter. We've heard that ad nauseum, but like you have to evaluate that and how you operate it. And if you have to make some changes, if you have the opportunity to make some changes, I'm not saying like, Gannon has the full confidence of ownership and all that, but like when he says he's going to look at it a critical eye, you got to look at this time of year. And if you stumble out of the gate, you can only look at how things were dealt with in August.
Do us a favor, hit like, subscribe to PHNX Sports here on YouTube. We're going to be live pregame and postgame show Saturday night. Bear with us.
It's a polarizing topic. You got to let us know. You think this is the right call? Drop a comment here and let us know if you think should the Cardinals at least be getting a couple series from their people that they're going to have high expectations for going into the season. That we want to know. Want to hear from you guys.
Yep, I'll give all credit in the world. When the sky was falling last Saturday, we were doing our postgame show for 2 hours. You were consistent that this was going to be the way they lean. But was it the right decision? Drop a comment, leave a like.